Welcome to Blonde Cards and Crafts. Let's make something together. Hello crafters! Today we're going to be using the Love from Lizi 2022 April card kit, and I'm starting with my first card. This is a card base measuring 12 by 6 and you can score it at 6. You can make your own, you can buy these in the shop, or you can cut two pieces of card, one 6.5 by 6, the other 6 by 6. If you score the larger one at a half an inch, you can then join the two together and that'll give you a 6 by 6 card base. So now that we have that organized, I'm going to put some pretty panels on the front of this one. So I have 4 panels that I'm going to be putting on here. This orange matte layer measures 3 3/4 by 3, and my paper measures 3.5 by 2 3/4. Then I have this piece here and this piece measures 3 3/4 by 2.5, and my pattern paper measures 3.5 by 2 1/4. Then I have a panel for the top there on the right, and this piece measures 1 3/4 by 3 inches, and my pattern paper is 1.5 by 2 3/4. And then this little piece will go on the bottom left. The matte layer is 1 3/4 by 2.5, and the pattern paper is 1.5 by 2 1/4. And I will have all the measurements for the pieces that I use throughout this video on the screen. I'm going to use 3 of the little flower ephemera. We get a big pack of ephemera and I just have them in the lid of this box. And we also got some of these Scrabble tiles. That's what they look like, holographic. And again, that's in the lid of a box, but it's easy for me to see them all and find them. So I'm going to cluster these 3 flowers together here, and then I'm going to add to the front of that this happy birthday sentiment. Now these dies I got from the Love from Lizi shop, and let me just have a look. They're word and shadow dies. You get 12 dies. You can see it here. I purchased this, well actually I got it from Lizi in January 2022. I had it in my box to purchase it, and Lizi, such a lovely lady, she gifted it to me. Anyway, they say for you with love and happy birthday. And not only do you get the shadow, which is the outline, you can see it there in orange behind, you also get the letters. This strip is going to go on the inside. The matte layer is 5 3/4 by 1, and then the pattern paper is 5.5 by 3/4 of an inch. So there are all the bits and pieces for our first card. It's just a matter now of gluing my mats and layers together and then gluing those down onto the front of our card base. So I'm doing that here, and you can see the majority of the time I will go between 2 types of glue. One is the Collall Glue. It's a type of construction glue. There is a little bit of an odor from it, but I don't notice it, to be honest. I find it gives you a good amount of wiggle time when you're positioning your piece, but that when this dries or set, it just goes rock hard. So it gives great strength to a project, whether it's a card or 3D project that you're working on. I love using the Collall for that. I'll also be using a Cosmic Shimmer glue. It's a white glue. It grabs pretty quickly. There's less wiggle room when you use that, but it's a really good glue. And these really are the 2 liquid glues that I use in my craft room. So I'm happy now with where I have my happy birthday situated on the card. I'm just faffing around a little bit with the flowers and deciding where I'm going to put those. I have some foam tape behind all 3 of these to add a little dimension, as everything else is glued flat to the front of the card. I've also added some sequins to my card. I put on the small gold sequins, and then what I like to do is fill each of the sequins with glossy accents. And there you go, there's card number 1 all done, and I will add a sentiment to that later. Card 2 is a 6 by 6 wiper, inside wiper card. This piece is 12 by 6. I've scored it at 6. I have 3 white mats. These all measure 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. 2 will go in the inside, which I will decorate later, and 1 will go on the outside. On top of that, I have a piece of pattern paper, and this measures 5.5 by 5.5. I'll decorate the front there with a die cut circle, add a sentiment, etc. later. This strip measures 7 by 2 and I've scored it at 1, 5 and 6, and we're going to fold them all into mountain folds, and that will sit inside the card. On top of that, I have this white piece. It measures 4.5 by 3.5. My pink piece measures 4.25 by 3.25, and then this pattern paper piece measures 3.5 by 2.5, and they will sit together like so. And they'll all sit on top of this piece inside in our card. This is the mechanism piece, and this piece measures 2 inches by 3 inches. On the 3-inch side, we're going to mark at 1 inch. We're going to rotate it, mark again at 1 inch. And that'll give us this corner piece. And that is what's going to stick on to the strip, the pink strip. And every time we open and close our card, that will pop up and down. I've die cut out this piece using one of the dies that came in the kit. I die cut it out in the pink as well as in a dark blue, and then I paper pieced them in. I also cut a little piece of the pink card to put on the back because these letters come out, so I wanted them to stay in place. And I used a bit of my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen on the letters. So we're going to stick that down onto the mechanism, and that's what's going to pop up and down every time we open and close our card. So inside, I'm now going to glue down these 2 white matte layers, and I'm using the Collall Glue for that. And once we have that done, then we're going to put in our pink strip that's there. So I've zoomed in a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. I'm using liquid glue. You could use double-sided tape. I'm putting this down, and it's literally up at where the score line is because we want to be able to fold the card close. Then what I'm going to do is put in the mechanism next, and to do that again I'm going to use some liquid glue. Now I have a card on my YouTube channel showing you how you can do this, so if you want to pop over there, I put a link for you to find it, but it will be slower and you'll be able to see easier what I'm doing. So our little mechanism is in now. We need to glue the rest of that strip down. Again, I'll use the liquid glue and I'll fold over the back of the card base. I'll allow that to set, and then once it's set, you can see our wiper mechanism pops up and down. So we just need to glue our panels now together, and we can stick that on over it. So our little yay will pop up from behind our decorative panels. For this, I'm going to use my Cosmic Shimmer glue to glue these down. And I really recommend that you use a good strong glue. And I loved the pattern papers on this card. I thought it was so cool. Now you'll see here I'm not butting the white piece up against the edge. I'm going to leave a little gap there. And I've allowed as well for my little pop-up piece on the wiper. So I'm going to put in my pattern paper piece here, and you can see it's not right up against, there is a little gap because we want the card to be able to open and close. So once I've made sure that's straight, then I'm going to allow that a little bit of time to set before I start opening and closing it. Now I was just going to pop down my die cuts there of the 4U, but I thought they were a bit lost on the pattern paper, so I die cut out a circle. I've stuck them down onto that. I've put some little stickers down of the sunglasses, and they have the gold foiling around them. I've also stuck down 2 lovely little flowers from the sticker sheet, and I'm using some glitter heart peel-offs. These are from my stash, and I would really recommend you have a look at Lizi's website. She's got such a great selection. So now I'm going to glue down my little yay, and I have the card open so I know where it's going to sit. I use the liquid glue here to do this because I want a little bit of wiggle room. I want to make sure when I close the card, my yay is going to go behind our panel there. So I'll be able to see that that's going to close nicely. So I have it in place where I want it. Now I'm closing the card, and I could see there it'll fit nicely. The extra piece of white that was on that wiper, I cut that away. So really all you'll see is the yay pop up. Now I've taken the individual hearts and I have some of them on a stamping block, and what I'm doing is I'm stamping using some ink from my stash, and I'm doing first, second and third generation inking. If you put your stamp down on the ink and you stamp, if you lift it up, you'll see there's a residue of ink left on your stamp. But if you stamp that down on a piece of paper, you'll see it's actually lighter in color, and you'll get away with doing that 3 times. So it looks like as if you've used a dark pink, a lighter pink, and then a lighter pink again. And that's all with just using one ink color. So it's what we call generation printing, because you're doing it, you know, 3 times. It's like 3 generations. So that's the inside of my card. I'm going to take a stamp from my stash. It's a made to surprise stamp, and it says it's your birthday. I'm using that to stamp the inside of my sentiment on my panel. I'll also take 2 of the little hearts, and using it a little bit lighter, I've put 2 hearts in there as well. So now we're moving on to card number 3. So for my blue piece here that I have, this piece measures 12 by 8, and I've scored it at 2, 4, 8 and 10, and that's going to give me an 8 by 8 card when I'm finished. I have done a mountain fold, a valley fold, a valley fold and a mountain fold, and the card folds flat like so to go in an 8 by 8 envelope. But you can size this down and make a smaller card size if you wish. I have 2 strips of pattern paper, and these are 1 3/4 by 7 3/4, and they'll both sit on the outside panels like so. Lovely. I have a strip here in blue, and this piece measures 8 by 1 1/4, and I have a piece of pattern paper measuring 7 3/4 by 1 inch, and this is going to be the bridge part of our card. You can put this part on any position on the card you like, at the top, in the middle, at the bottom. I'll put it somewhere near the bottom. This panel that I have here, it measures 3 3/4 by 7 3/4. I have stamped 2 of the stamps that came in the kit using this Versafine ink. I've also done some stamping using the hearts, and I've done it in a yellow color using some Distress Oxide, and I'll list all the inks etc that I use in the product lists down below. So I did another panel there in white for the back of my card, same measurement, and again inked that using the yellow ink and the blue ink. So now I have my panels stuck down, and I decided I wanted to embellish them with the lovely peel-offs that we got in our kit, these beautiful shiny blue peel-offs. So I'm going to put 2 on the large panels, and then I'm going to put 2 on my smaller strips, and those little strips are just offcuts that I had, and I thought I might as well use them to embellish the card as just throw them away. So I'm using the peel-offs, and I'm just cutting them off at the top. Sometimes I wrap them around a panel to stick them down, but the adhesive on the peel-offs works really well. You just apply pressure. So I have that all done now. I'm going to add some peel-offs to the bridge part of our card, and I'm going to put 1 on the top and again 1 on the bottom, and then we can stick that down to the front of our card. Using the Cosmic Shimmer glue to stick that down, and I turn it over, that way I can see how much glue I need to put on the piece. So again, I'll put some glue on the back side of that, and the card should fold open on both sides once it's down properly. So I'm going to then stick my panel to the back of the card, and this will give us space to write a message. You could do it on the front, but I think I'll leave the front clear and have it so you can put a message on the back. I'm taking some of the ephemera, the large daisy or echinacea, I'm not too sure, but it looks like a daisy to me, and then a little cluster of flowers to embellish the front panels. I'll glue them down again using my Cosmic Shimmer glue. And then once I've those down, I'm going to embellish them using a little bit of my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen. I'll take my glossy accents then, and I'll put some glossy accents in the flowers too. So there we go. There is our third card, our bridge fold card. And I love this. I think it's cool. And like I said, it's a big card, but you can make it whatever size you like yourself. For card 4, we're going to make this screen fold card, and we want one piece measuring 8 by 8 1/4 and a second piece measuring 8 1/2 by 8 1/4. I've scored the first and second one at 4, and then the second piece is scored at 8. That'll give us a little 1/2 inch tab there to join those two together. When these are then folded, it will become a DL size, fit in a DL envelope. These 4 panels, they measure 3.5 by 7 3/4. I'm going to put 2 pattern papers measuring 3 by 7 1/4 and 2 white panels, the same measurements on those. I have 2 offcuts here, 2 little strips, and they're 3 inches by about 1/2 inch. So I'm folding over our white panels. I've done a mountain fold here. I'm going to do a mountain fold on this one and then a valley fold on our little tab. We're going to glue that little tab to the other piece there. I like to burnish the folds really well with a bone folder or burnishing tool. It just helps your card to sit that wee bit better. So like I said, we need to then glue one panel to the other. Now you can use double-sided tape, you can use liquid glue, whatever you have in your stash. I'm using a double-sided tape here for this. It's a little bit bigger than 1/2 inch, so I'll just fold over the little sticky bit there. I like to add a little bit of liquid glue then on top. That gives me a little bit of wiggle room because I want everything lining up. Once I have those two in place, then I will burnish that and then I can add on my panels. I have my panels glued together, so I'm just going to stick them down now onto my card base. So I'll put one of these on the left hand side and the other on the right hand side. My 2 white panels that you can see there, I have the little strips put down at the bottom, and I'm going to embellish those for a finish. I use some of the stickers that came on the sticker sheet, as well as a stamp from my stash. I'm going to use a stamp from a previous Love from Lizi stamp set that I have in my stash. For the little flower, it looks very similar to the flowers on the pattern paper. I'm using the Scrabble tiles that came in the kit, and I'm just putting them at a jaunty angle on each panel. So one panel has the happy and the other has the birthday. I've put this large Hey Girlfriend sticker down here, and I'm going to put the Love You Sis on the other one because I think I'll give this to my sister for her birthday. So that is our large card. This card, when it's open, is 12 inches by 8 1/4, but when it concertina folds closed, it's only 4 by 8 1/4. Card 5 is a multi-panel card, and I have a ready-made card base here. It's 5 by 7. You can make one taking a piece of 10 by 7 cardstock and scoring it at 5. We're going to have this as a top opening card. I have this a green panel here. It measures 6 by 4 1/4, and I have cut this down into strips. The first one is an inch thick, the second one is an inch 1/4, the third one is an inch 1/2. The fourth one is an inch 1/4, and that leaves us then with the fifth one an inch wide. From them, we then need to cut them a little bit shorter in length. So the length of our first piece is 3¼ long, the second piece is 3¾ long, the fourth piece is 4¼ which is the length it was, then the next piece is 3¾ and the last piece is 3¼ length. So that'll give us our length, and we're going to stagger these. So there's literally 1/4 inch from the top and bottom, and you'll see it here as we stagger them along from our middle piece out onto the left, and then again from the middle out to the right. And you can see it goes up or it goes down by 1/4 inch at the top and the bottom. So we need to do the same again now with our pattern piece of paper, and this measures 4¾ by 4. So our first piece will be 3/4 inch wide, our second one will be 1 inch wide, our third one will be 1 1/4 inch wide, our fourth piece will be 1 inch wide, and then the last piece left will be 3/4 inch wide. Our first and our fifth panel, we need to take 1/2 inch off the top and off the bottom. On our second and our fourth panel, we need to take 1/4 inch off the top and off the bottom. And that then will give a staggered image, but the image on the pattern paper will be consistent. So if we were to take 1/2 inch off the top of our first panel, then it wouldn't line up right with the second panel. So I hope I've made that easy to understand. Now it's just a matter of gluing down our pattern paper panels to our matte panels. Now, in order to center this on the card, I'm finding the middle of our card base. So this is a 7" long, and to divide that is 3½. So I've put a pencil line at 3½ down the whole length of that card. I'm then going to eyeball this middle panel here. I've taken it down, it's just a little over 1/4 inch. It's 3/8 inch from the top, and it'll be 3/8 inch from the bottom, thereabouts. I didn't measure it, I just eyeballed it. Next, I'm going to sit our other 4 panels in place. I just noticed there that the trimmer kind of left fuzzy edges around, so I'm just filing them off with an emery board or nail file. So now what I've done is I've all my panels down. I have given them the same kind of gap between them all, and then I can come along, lift each one up and glue each panel down, making sure that the gaps between each of those panels is all more or less the same. So you can see how this looks once it's stuck down. I think it's so cool. I love it. I seen Jan B do this on a card, and she had, her panel was like a scenic scene. It was like looking across a lake that she did it, and I thought that's so cool. I want to do that on a card. Now, she took an hour to do her card and explain how it's done, and I know I've done it so much faster than that, guys, but if you just pause the video and have a look at the measurements that I have given you, hopefully, fingers crossed, you'll be able to manage it. But once you do one, it's so easy, it really is. Okay, so I've taken one of the stickers, the Hey Girlfriend sticker. I wanted it to pop off my panels, so I've set it onto some of the green cardstock that I used for my matte layers. I've put some foam tape behind that after I fussy cut around it, just so that it looks more or less the same. So I'm just deciding where I want this to sit on my panels, and I'm happy with it there. The only other thing I'm going to do to embellish this card is put a couple of sequins on it. So I've put a couple around the Hey Girlfriend, and then I've put 2 above the first panel on the left and 2 below the last panel on the right. And as usual, when I have my sequins stuck down, I like to take my glossy accent and fill each of the sequins up. I just find when the glossy accent dries, it dries clear and it gives a lovely look to the sequins. I'll stamp inside with a little note to say later on. So that is card 5. We're moving on to card 6. This is a side sentiment panel, and I have a piece measuring 12 by 5, which I've then scored at 5, and it'll give me a card base measuring 7 by 5. I have a couple of panels here. These matte layers are on a silver cardstock, and these measure 4 3/4 by 4 3/4. I've 2 of those. I then have a piece of pattern paper and white paper. They both measure 4.5 by 4.5. I'm going to glue those mats and layers together and sit them on the card like so. I then have this piece which measures 1 3/4 by 4 3/4 in the silver and 1.5 by 4.5 in the pattern paper, and that'll sit on the little side panel there. I've taken one of these holographic photo panels, and we got 2 of these in the kit, and I've just taken some pattern paper and put that behind that. I'm going to sit that on the front of the card, and I'm going to use some of our holographic Scrabble tiles to go inside that, and these are going to say new job. I just thought I needed to put a sentiment in there that's small enough that would fit and that would make sense. So I thought this could be a grand card for someone who's starting a new job. So I'm going to glue down my little tiles. I'm sticking down the E in new and the O in job first, and then I will put the other tiles around them evenly. Once I've that done, then I can stick that down onto the front of my card. I love this card, and I have to say it was pretty quick to put together once I had my mats and layers glued down. So again, I'm going to use some of my Collall Glue to stick the mats and layers down and then stick this down onto the card base. And I loved this pattern paper. I really do recommend, if you're getting the kit, to pop the pattern paper into your shopping basket so it comes with the kit for you. Now we have down our little new job panel. I'm going to embellish that using 2 pairs of sunglasses from our sticker sheet. I'll then stick in my inside panel, and I'm going to stick a sentiment from my stash onto the inside of this, and it's just a good luck in your new job sentiment. So once I have this glued down, I'll do that, and I use some of my Spectrum Noir Harmony. These are the water reactive dyes that I'm using, and it's Damson Wine is the colour that I'm using to stamp this sentiment. It kind of missed a little bit here and there, but I have some fine liners. They're in a multitude of shades. I got them in my local Mr. Price, and I find them great if I stamp a sentiment and it's a little bit patchy. I find the colors in these fine liners are pretty good match. So that's it. That's card 6 done, and now we're moving on to card 7. I'm calling this a center panel card, and I'm doing it on a card base which is 12 by 6 scored at 6. I have 2 white mats. These measure 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. One will go on the inside and one will go on the outside. On top of that, then I have this piece of pattern paper that I made using the large hearts stamp that came in the kit, and here I have a little video showing you how I made this pattern paper. So I'm using a stamping block from my stash to stamp down this large stamp that we got in the kit. Now you can use a stamping platform if you like. I'll leave links to the products that I can down below. But I found this worked just perfectly because it didn't have to be perfectly inked, because the stamps have that kind of look about them. So I'm matching them up as best I can. Oh, excuse my head there. But I'm stamping it down, and you can see it's not perfect with the joining up. It really doesn't have to be. I'm going to add a sentiment, and I'm going to use some of the ephemera and stickers on this, so you won't even notice there along the bottom. Now I'm taking some peel-offs that came in one of the add-ons that I got. I had a set of this in my stash, so rather than opening that pack, I'm going to use the pack I have. So I'm sticking down first my white panel onto the front of my card base. Once I have that down, then I'm going to add my homemade or handmade pattern paper, and I'm using the Collall Glue for all these. I'm going to embellish this. Now, I could have stuck my peel-offs on, wrapped them over the edge on my front panel, and then stuck it down, but I'm pretty pleased with these peel-offs. I know they're not going anywhere. I've stuck down my panel on the inside as well as my strips, and I'm going to add a sentiment inside, and it'll be a birthday sentiment from my stash that I will stamp later on inside. So you can see now I'm adding my peel-offs. I'm using the thickest of the three widths and the smallest or the thinnest of the three widths. So there's two peel-offs on each side of my panel. And I find once you add pressure to the peel-offs, they really do stay in place. You can peel them off if you pull, but generally they tear the paper when you do that. That's what I found. But if you just lay them down into place and then lift them up, they'll come away. So add a bit of pressure. I find most adhesives, when you add pressure, that's how they work best. So I have some of the ephemera pieces here, and I'm kind of deciding what I want on this card. I'm going to go with the Yes Queen and the beautiful denim jacket. I would love this denim jacket. I think it's fab. It's rad. But I'm going to add a little bit of foam to the denim jacket. I'm using my words and shadow dyes here. Again, I have the happy birthday sentiments out, and I love these. I'm so pleased that Lizi has these in the shop. I really do find I'm going to them regularly, not just for my Love from Lizi cards, but for other cards as well. So I'm gluing down my happy birthday sentiment as well as my Queen sentiment. I'm going to stick down my little denim jacket, and you see there again I use a little bit of liquid glue behind my foam tape. Allows a little bit of wiggle room, folks. I love sharing that little tip. We got 5 of these little stars. There isn't any adhesive on these. Now I'm using the Cosmic Shimmer Glue adhesive, and I'm here a day later doing the voiceover and they're stuck down. I think I'd really have to get my nail under them to flick them up, but I'm really happy with that. So the Cosmic Shimmer Glue works well on those. I'm again stamping my happy birthday sentiment inside from my stash, and I'm going to put the 5th star on the inside just above it. And there we go. There is our center panel card. We'll add a little bit of Spectrum Noir sparkle pen to our sentiments and our denim jacket, and that is card 7 all done and finished. And it really was a quick card to put together once we made our pattern paper, so I hope you like this card. Next, we're moving on to card number 8, and this is a floating front panel card. Well, that's what I'm calling it. I have all my bits and pieces here. I've used a die from my stash for my birthday sentiment. I've used some of my Scrabble tiles for the wish, and again I'm using the second photo frame that we got in the kit. So I have my card base, or part of my card base here. This measures 8 by 6 and I've scored it at 2. I'm going to fold and burnish this piece. This is going to be the top of our card base. It got very dark outside, so I've put on an extra light. I hope that makes it better for you to see. I'm using the linen cardstock that we got in the kit for my matte layers, and that measures 5 3/4 by 1 3/4. Pattern paper then measures 5 1/2 by 1 1/2. I have this piece here in white which measures 6 by 1 1/2. I've put a matte layer on top of that of 5 3/4 by 1 1/4, and then my pattern paper is 5 1/2 by 1. This white panel measures 3 1/4 by 4 1/4, and it's going to join our top and bottom panels. On top of this then I have cut a piece of pattern paper that just sits behind our photo panel, and that then will sit on top of that white panel. This strip, which measures 5 3/4 by 1 1/4, will sit inside on our card, and then the pattern paper is 5 1/2 by 1 inch. So let's go ahead now, speed everything up and glue down our white panel to our top and bottom of our card base. So I'm using the Collall glue for this. I'm just going to make sure that I have enough room to the right of that for my little sentiment and that it's nice and even in under there. Once I have the top glued down, I can then glue down the bottom panels. And I'm sorry you're a little bit off screen there. I didn't realize, but I will actually pull that up so that you'll see. But I'm literally just adhering that white panel, so the front of our card will be 6 by 6 inches. Once I've that down, then I'm going to add my pattern paper to my photo panel. And I'm just using the Cosmic Shimmer glue there. I've just a little thin line of that to glue that down. And once that's in place, then I can glue that onto the white panel. So we know that the front of the card is nice and secure because the photo panel is gluing the top and bottom as well as the white panel behind that. So once I've that set then in place, I'll be able to put in our lovely holographic tiles. I have to say, I think these holographic tiles are so cool. They just blow my mind. I love anything with a bit of holographic in it. So I'm putting the W for the wish and the H for the wish in first, and then I'll put the I and the S in, and I'll kind of do my best to make sure they're evenly spaced between the two. So I like the look of that now. All I need to do is add my birthday, which I've done. I've stamped my sentiment in, and I've used my Versafine Deep Lagoon blue color for that. I'll add some sequins. I'm going to put 3 to the bottom right, and then I'll add 2 to the top left. And once they're down, you know what I'm going to do next. I'm going to add some of my glossy accents to fill them up. And that is card number 8. And I love this card. I think it's quite masculine looking, and it's always good to have some of those in the stash. And now we're moving on to card 9, and this card I'm calling a Cascade Gatefold card. I have a piece of 6 by 6 white cardstock in my scoreboard here, and you can see I have stamped this already, and I will put a sentiment on this. This is the center part of our card, so we need a piece for the left and a piece for the right. I have 2 panels here, and they measure 6.5 by 6. One I'm scoring at 1/2 inch, 2.5 and 4.5. Then the other panel will score at 2, at 4 and at 6. So we'll have the first panel will have our 1/2 inch tab on the left, and our second panel will have our 1/2 inch tab on the right. And you need to be aware of this if you're using cardstock like me that has pattern on it. But if it's just a plain cardstock, then you can score them all like you do the first one. But you can see there we need to have our tabs. One will go on the left and one on the right. Now from where our score line is, we want to cut off a piece. So you can see here on the side that doesn't have the 1/2 inch tab, I've marked up at 2 inches. And then I'm cutting from that 2 inches right over to where our tab starts. So if you mark up 2 inches, put a little pencil line there. We're going to cut straight across over to where our tab is. I'm not cutting off the tab, I'm cutting over to that first score line. I like to use a trimmer that has a wire in it. So there's a wire runs through the middle of this and our blade skates along it. I find these trimmers are brilliant when you want to line up something like this. So I can see on my wire that it's over where our 2 inch mark is, and it's right at where our tab first score line is there. So I've cut that off. So I'll have one piece now that will have our tab on the left, and then our other piece will have our tab on the right. So we have our 2 pieces. This little tab is going to get stuck behind our 6 by 6 inch panel, just like so. We'll fold and burnish each of the score lines. So depending on which side you're doing it, you can see here. And then they'll go behind our panel, as I said. and they'll sit on like that. It's really cool looking card. Now you can make a belly band for this so it wraps around it and keeps the card closed. I don't think you need it. When it's put into the envelope, it's fine. The person takes it out, and I think it's pretty explanatory what you do with it. Okay, so for the back to tidy up, I have 2 pieces of cardstock. My blue one measures 5 7/8 by 5 7/8, and then my white one measures 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. I haven't made the blue one 6 by 6 because I'm allowing for, you know, a little bit off. I generally find when I cut it at 6 by 6, I end up trimming a side or whatever. So I find that 5 7/8 by 5 7/8 is perfect to cover the back. And I went with a nice blue. That's one of the card panels that we got in our kit, and I thought it went really well with this ink. So now I have both the left and right side stuck on to my center panel. I'm going to glue down my blue matte layer onto the back, make sure everything is nicely lined up, and then I'll put my white panel down. Now, I kind of fast forwarded through this. I've again done some of my stamping using one ink color and stamping down once, twice, 3 times. So we have generation stamping going on there. Then I'm going to take the blue color that I used, and I'm going to take one of the stamps from my stash. I have the Strong is the New Pretty, Be Fearless. I'm going to have that on the front. So this is the back of the card. So again, I've put my good luck in your new job on the back. These are cards that I think I have 1 left in my stash, and I thought that stamp, putting those 2 stamps together here for this sentiment, I think it's great, you know, card sentiment for a new job. It's different. You know, so yeah, anyway, that's what I went with. I want to embellish the card now because there's just stamping on it. So I'm going to use the peel-offs that we got in the kit, and I'm wrapping them right around because I want the back of this card to have the peel-offs on it as well. So I'll just join them up at the back. On the 6 by 6 panel, I only need to wrap them around a little bit because I'm going to put the white panel on after I have the peel-offs on there. But on the wings or the cascade part of the card, you can see there I'm wrapping the peel-offs right around, and I'm going to join them up. So whether the card is open or closed, it's a consistent looking peel-off going the whole way around. And I think, you know, there's not a whole lot going on with this card, you know, it's just some stamping that's going on here, but at the same time, I think it's really cool. It's really different. Yeah, I mean, you know, you can walk into a local shop and pick up a standard card, whatever size you want, but something like this, you don't see this in your local newsagent or Tesco or WH Smith's. You just don't get cards like this, and I think it's lovely to give these out because it feels very personal then to the recipient. So now I'm going to decorate using the fab sticker sheet we got, and I'm just putting them on the outside panels. I want when the card is closed to look nice and full, and then when you open it you have some matching ones as well. So I love this, and I love the sentiments, you know, do your thing, girl power, work, tough girl. You know, I have someone in mind for this card. I won't mention because as far as I'm aware, the person watches my videos, but yeah, I have someone in mind for this particular card. So there we go. That's our Cascade Gatefold card. And now we're moving on to our final card, card 10. I have a piece of cardstock here. It measures 10.5 by 7, and I have scored it at 5.5. This piece then measures 6.5 by 7, and I have 3 score lines on this at 1/2 inch, 5.5, and 6. When we burnish the score lines, that will give us a shadow box inside. Now I'm going to die cut that last piece with this oval opening. I want to be able to see through this piece to our colored paper inside. This panel measures 5¼ by 6¾ and my panel inside measures 4¾ by 6¾ I have 2 strips here. These are offcut. I'm debating which one I'll use to decorate inside. I've taken 2 of the new linen cardstock from our paper pack that we got, and I have some dies here, some oval dies. I want to die cut this one out with just one die, and this is my largest oval. I'm going to cut out that in the purple card, and then the other oval which fitted inside it, I'm going to die cut out a piece of white. Those 2 will be for the front of my card. Then the other one I will use to cut out a frame for the inside of my card. So you can see here I've used the smaller die of the 2 for my frame to die cut out our shadow piece that'll go inside. And I'm just folding and burnishing all the score lines there. This will then sit inside our card. It's upside down to you, so I'm going to flip it around the right way. That way, that's it, Simone. This side will go to the inside of our opening part of the card, like so. So when our card is open, you have the shadow box, and then when we fold the card closed, the whole thing lays flat. Now I'm going to stick this down first and then put in my pattern paper, because I don't want you to be able to see that tab inside. But you can glue down your pattern paper first and then stick down your shadow piece. But I think this way it's pretty easy to do. So that's the way I'm going to go at gluing this one down. So you can see there then, once we have that glued in place, this then will sit nicely on our card. We'll be able to glue down that tab, and then the card will close and open. So I'm using some double-sided tape. This is 1/4 inch double-sided tape that I have in my stash. So I will put 2 strips on this, and I'm going to use a liquid glue over that because it'll give me a bit of wiggle room. So this is the tab that's going to stick to the edge of our card here. And you can see I have that nice and level. It's pretty easy to do and self-explanatory. So once that's down, then I can open my card and I can take my glue. I'm using the Collall here, and I'm going to put glue on this patterned paper piece and stick that in. Lovely. Now you could have a little pop-up coming up inside that, but I thought I'd keep it a little bit simple here. Again, I've put 2 strips of my double-sided tape on this tab to the left. You can see that it just sits shy of the score line. I'll flatten the whole thing down and then close the card, and then that adheres to our left panel, and that's how it looks then. I love this. I think it's cool. I saw this ages and ages ago with I think Jennifer Maguire. She did an American 4¼ by 5½ version of this, and I know this card is a strange size. It's, you know, when the card is closed, it's 5½ by 7, but I didn't want to lose the inch on the inside. It would make the panel there where we had our oval, which I'm now adhering down the frame to, it would have made that smaller, and I wanted it a little bit bigger. But I have my envelope punch board, so I can make an envelope to match for this card. So I have gone with the patterned paper strip there on the left hand side to match the pattern paper on the outside. I was looking at maybe putting some of this scrap on my ovals for the outside, but I decided against that. I'm going to leave it just plain. I'm going to decorate that with some of the star stickers from the sheet. I've taken our 3 dies, our Fab, Cool and Yay dies. I've die cut them out. I've taken a stamp from my stash, It's Your Birthday, and I'm going to stamp that on the inside. And now I'm going to look at sorting out our lovely little panel for the front of our card. So I have Happy Birthday die cut out in a scrap of the purple that I used for the oval behind this. I'm using again a stamp from my stash, Let's Celebrate. These 2 stamps are a made to surprise stamp, and I'll leave links to products down below. Some of them I'll probably put links to the products with sold out beside it, because some of them are kind of hard to get a hold of, and some of them I just got from AliExpress, or they're Christina Griffith stamps, and as well are sold out, or I can't find links to. But the stuff I can find links for, I will have in the description down below. Okay, so I have my happy birthday, let's celebrate sentiment for the front of our card, and I'm going to stick that to the front, but I'm going to put it on some double-sided tape. And this is foam tape that I got in my local, it's like Mr. Price or Poundland or Target, wherever you are locally. This is like a draft excluder, stuff like that. But it works the same. It's foam, it's got adhesive on both sides. It's not too bad to take the release tape off, and it's so much cheaper than getting 3M foam tape. So now I just need to adhere the 3 die cut sentiments, and I die cut those out and put a piece of white cardstock behind. I'm debating where I'm going to put them, and I think I'm going to go with the cool down at the bottom on the right hand side. The fab I'm going to put up here to the top on the left. My yay, what I'm going to do with that is, I think because it was like a speech bubble, it was kind of throwing me off, and I was debating what did I want to have beside it. So I've gone with this Yes Queen crown for inside, and I'm going to put this lovely pink jacket on the inside. And for a finish, what I do is I cut off the little pointy out bit on our yay and just have that as like a round bubble. And I'm going to pop that in there as well. Lovely, I'm delighted with that. I think there's a lot going on, but it's really cool. Again, I'm going to take some of the stars from the sticker sheet, put them around the sentiment, it's your birthday, put a couple of them on our shadow box part, and then I'm going to put a few as well around our happy birthday, let's celebrate, on the outside too. And I love that these have a bit of shine and a bit of sparkle on them. So we'll put one on the bottom there, one across from the let's, and one next to the happy birthday. Lovely. And there you go. That is our inside shadow box card. So cool. So that's it, folks. That's our final card, card 10. You can see it stands up lovely. I think this card would be displayed open rather than, you know, displaying the front, but I think both are nice. I'm going to leave you now with some images of all 10 cards we've made using this kit. I love this kit. I would really recommend put the paper pack that's in the add-ons into your kit. If you can afford to buy it, I definitely would, because it goes with all the stuff we get in the kit. So I hope you liked my video. If you did, you might click the like button down below and give my video a thumbs up. If you're a subscriber, thank you so much for subscribing, and if not, you might click on the subscribe button down below. There's a bell icon. If you click on that as well, you'll be notified each time I post a new video. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. I'm going to have a little giveaway over on my Instagram channel. I'm going to give away one of the packs of the peel off stickers, the ones with the 4 different sizes, the straight, the hearts, the wavy and the silver dots. If you're interested in that, pop over to my Instagram, let me know what cards you liked and tag 3 friends that you think would like to watch my video or would be interested in the Love from Lizi products. So that's it, folks. Until next time, stay safe, take care, and bye for now.